early on with all the fan base, like just, it's that honeymoon phase that we were definitely under. It was magical. I'm not gonna lie. It definitely felt like it was something just like I felt like we were on top of something. We were, going to take this to a level that's I hadn't quite seen. In North America.
And we are back, episode 32 of Box to Box. If you are a first-time viewer, welcome in. My name is Jose Tejas. I am the host of this show, the primary host anyway. I am typically joined by my mainstay host, Andre and Alina. We're recording in the evening. Both are insanely busy at this time of the year, so I'm here to hold the fort down. But I am not alone. As normal, I'm always joined by a special guest on Box to Box, and today is no different. I am very, very excited to be joined by what I would consider to be one of the trailblazers when it comes to the fan channel category that is quickly growing, with not just throughout broader, footy, but specifically in the States, MLS content. So I'm going to go ahead and tee him up here. I have AJ from Atlanta United Fan TV. AJ, how are you, my man? How are things going down south?
Ooh, that's a lofty intro there. I really appreciate that. I'm humbled. Thank you so much. Doing very, very well. Having a fantastic day, and in kind of a dreary Atlanta actually, but we're making the best of it here.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I'm in Texas right now, and the weather is insane. It was like 80 degrees yesterday, and today it's like 40 or 55. I can't keep up with it, man. I don't know whether to wear a hoodie or shorts, but we're here now.
Both.
We're here. yeah.
Literally
we're
today.
Here now, man.
Besides changing into this, I was literally wearing that.
Bro, and look, that top. Fire. We'll talk about it. I'm a giant Arsenal guy myself. We'll jump into it 100%. But before we do, as always, guys, my typical intro, Box to Box is presented by GOLZtv. GOLZtv, where you can find your free unlimited footy content today. The mobile iOS app is launching very soon. We'll have more details on that towards the end of this show. But for the sake of this interview and for this episode today, let's go ahead and jump right in. If you viewed Box to Box in the past, you already know what I'm going to ask. I ask it to every single guest. AJ, man, let's quickly give a brief synopsis or summary. Who are you today?
Ooh, yeah, what a question. I'm a creator. I'm a person that loves making something out of nothing. And I'm also a person that helps people find financial freedom. And I think that kind of encompasses a lot of what I do on a daily basis. And, I think at the forefront, maybe at the bones of it, maybe is a better way to say it. But footy fan through and through.
Love it, man. Love it. Again, there's never a wrong answer to that question. I know sometimes when I ask creators that it can throw some people off, but I don't know, man. I think it's always interesting to get a firsthand, take and response on how you define yourself. Whether that's content creator focused or strictly person focused. So either way, man, that's great. And look, I think for today's interview, there's a lot that we can really unpack, man. You've been creating content for years and years now, and so I typically always like to start in the beginning with a lot of these interviews. But I know that there's so much to unpack there because typically the type of creator that we have on this show has been doing this, relatively speaking, for like maybe a few years, or maybe they switched, strategy or content direction with what they do over the last few years. Maybe some creators have started during COVID. That's when I think a lot of content creators started popping up out of the woodwork. But man, you're an OG. You've been doing this for quite some time. So let's kind of start at the beginning. I think that's probably the best place to start, and then we'll kind of scale things up from there. So let's 5, 6, 7 years ago, I know firsthand because I was watching a ton of footy content on the internet. There weren't very many fan channels or fan reaction channels when it came to the beautiful game. When I think about some of the pioneers when it comes to this content specifically, I think of guys like AFTV overseas in the UK. And I know that with your channel, you had the unique opportunity to meet those guys, and we'll talk about it. But I don't know, did the inspiration for your content come from other content creators like that? Or I don't know, walk me through the origins a little bit of Atlanta United Fan TV and how you kind of started ramping that up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, there's obviously some inspiration from other football fan creators, but the origin, I think, comes from kind of the genesis that, footy fan, and also I love film and used to work in the film industry up until about maybe a couple of years ago. And so
wow.
It's one of those kind of marrying those two passions together kind of seemed like the obvious choice when Atlanta United came around. And basically it was one of those, I've been consuming a lot of kind of vlogs at that point, and Casey Neistat and others.
Dude, Casey's content's great, dude.
Just incredible. And also, really getting inspired by Gary Vaynerchuk saying, kind of really creating something for yourself, your brand, your thing. It's obviously the earlier the better is what he always says, but that if you're 30, you're still in your nascent part of your journey, you're absolutely super duper young still. And so it just put this kind of action into my mind that I love these things, and Atlanta United starting up, it seemed like there was a natural void that just wasn't existent. And with the know-how, with the the team just creating themselves, I thought it was a perfect time to get in there with the fans, in the trenches with them. And I think that's shown a lot of the through the results, I feel like, of how it's been received and all that, because obviously to that inspiration over there overseas in the UK, that's what they were doing so well was the football fan media, not only AFTV but Redman TV, Red Devils TV.
There's so many, man. There's so many.
But I was definitely inspired by them all and how they were so consistent. They were able to, I think, create something that was what the fans were craving. I mean, it's something that on the regular TV, all the pundits, they're not representing fans. And I think that's the voice that was the void that was needed. And, there's a lot of people that, it can be divisive. It can, there's some opinions strongly one way or the other sometimes. But then there are, I think, a lot of the people that I think are kind of level-headed about it. That, okay, a channel is not solely represented by one person's opinions that happens to show up on that channel. There are multiple and very nuanced type of takes, and that's what I've always tried to achieve is, not showing that there's only one side to the opinion, to the fan opinion, to the temperature of the team. And I think that shows, even though sometimes, throughout my journey, I've had to either scale up, ramp down, all that. I think that's the wisest thing in a kind of fluid and agile market that MLS is. I think we would all love, obviously, to have the UK type of appeal in terms of just instant fan base that will gobble up everything in mass. It's not as easy over here, and I think there is a little bit more even. It's I think even more laudable, that if that's a word, it's going to be a word, but that anybody that plans to create content and is still creating content here, obviously they're not just doing it for clout or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like there are,
it's passion, bro. It's passion.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not for people that are the faint of heart. That's for sure.
Yeah. 100%, man. And you brought up a really interesting point there. And you know, it's actually been referenced in previous episodes, where juggling this, you know, this fine balance between the content you want to create, the, you know, part of the story you want to tell, and the reactions of this budding fan base, right? And not even just the reactions that you're recording on camera, right? I'm referring to the reactions in the comments, the reactions that you even get from people when you head out to the stadium to do the reactions, or when you do 5 Stripe Weekly or anything else. That's a very, very fine balance, right? When I talked to Ernan from We Are Austin TV, he referenced that, like, you know, even as early as year 1, their channel was viewed as like quote unquote toxic because, like, you know, some of the earliest reactions as an early MLS expansion fan base, you know, it's expected, I think, for certain fans who know this game and know how long it takes to truly see success as a club. I would argue that Atlanta United saw some success very early. But how was it juggling, I guess, the expectations of the fans in this, you know, this brand new market for MLS at a time when you're also trying to capture their reactions and tell that story? I mean, was your content ever perceived as maybe, I don't know, negative, or maybe on the opposite end of the spectrum, the coolest thing in the world?
I haven't ever heard coolest thing in the world, but yeah, that hopefully people are saying that in whisper to themselves. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, definitely. I think anybody that makes any content, they're going to get their fair share of trolls. They're going to get their fair share of hate, and you know, there's been plenty of that. Even death threats. We'll get there, but yeah, it's definitely, I think, something that I was aware of, I knew going in, and I was ready for. And basically, you know, in that sense, though, you know, to answer your question, for the people that, you know, were growing with the club and, you know, maybe didn't have quite the soccer knowledge, but they had the fervor for the, you know, for the fandom, I think, you know, that was something that we were able to capture there. We were able to capture the knowledge, definitely when we created 5 Stripe Weekly, to show people, yeah, hey, you know, there's, you know, the tactical side of it, the more nuanced side that isn't just, you know, reaction based. And I think something that I think we were able to resonate with the fans as well, very, very well, was, you know, our passion for the game. And also there are some very specific, I think, yeah, I would say the transfer season is always something that I would always look forward to, because I think it was a lot of the first exposure for a lot of the fans on just how intense transfer season can be and how much fun it also can be. But also, yeah, like very early on, we had, you know, the kind of Barco saga. And yeah, transfer sagas are not that kind of unfamiliar with a lot of LA United fans, but during that first year, it was definitely something that I knew the fan base would enjoy, and it was definitely like, yeah, we followed that thing from yes, Sudamericana, Copa Sudamericana matches where, you know, we're on Barco watch to man, it was just like, I'm gonna be honest, it kind of took over my life a little bit, where I couldn't do some things because I was in fear of Barco being announced while I was out, and so I've reeled that back in now. There's
that's wild, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot healthier living now, but yeah, there was a time that it's hard to, like, man, I need to be on my phone to make sure that you know, Barco is not just magically going to be announced this hour. It was like that. So,
man, the worst timing too, right? I mean, if it, you know, if it were to happen while you were out or doing something, I totally understand the fear. I mean, the life of a content creator and making sure that you could get there first.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like when you think about those moments, right? Those sacrifices that content creators have to make, and I think most people who are aspiring content creators, maybe they thought about it, maybe they haven't, maybe they're just now starting to get the wheels turning mentally, and they have a content idea they want to roll out, but don't know if it's good enough, or maybe they're just kind of starting now their first channel. I don't know how often did you think about some of those things that maybe you might be giving up, right? I think even with this channel, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that, hey, in order to grow this thing, I have to be consistent. In order to be consistent, there are things that along the way that, due to timing, wherever the case may be, I may just have to sacrifice along the road. So, and I'm comfortable with that now, but I think it was a little bit difficult to wrap my head around it originally. Was that the same case for you, or did you have maybe the realistic expectations coming into this whole thing?
Yeah, no, there definitely wasn't as many, like, I guess the telltale stories, or like, the people letting you know, okay, this is also what comes with it. So yeah, I didn't have that, I think, that realization until I was doing it, that it's like, okay, yeah, so if I don't do this, yeah, the viewership will wane. Like, I need to be as consistent as possible with every single thing, otherwise they lose trust in you. It's just basically that. It's like, if they lose trust in you too many times, then they're going to leave, and they're going to find somebody else. And so, totally understand that. That's kind of been part of the, the consistency journey, even through all the trials and tribulations that I've had to go through to continue running this channel. And yeah, I mean, obviously early on, with all the fan base, like, just it's that honeymoon phase that we were definitely under. It was magical. I'm not gonna lie. It definitely felt like it was something. Just like, I felt like we were on top of something. We were, going to take this to a level that's I hadn't quite seen. In North America.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, there's some things that have happened in between then, and these are the lessons, and I've taken them, and I'm very excited about this new kind of Apple TV journey, where the fans can actually see the matches without having to go find the 10 other channels. This is going to change the game so much for not only the fervent fans, but also the casual fans, which I think that's, no one wants to just cater to, one side of it. I feel like there are, the casual fans are still also a lifeblood for, a lot of these channels, because it is, like, as well, the hardcore fans in the UK, there are a lot more of them.
Yeah. 100%.
In the United States, there's a lot fewer of that core foundation, but there are a lot more casual fans. And so it's that, like, how do you capture the casual fan base and hook them?
It's a great question, man. And we're still figuring it out, all of us, right? I think, you and your channel have been doing it so much longer than I think most channels, especially here in North America, right? Getting to know this fan base on a deeper level. I think when you mentioned fervent versus casual, you have a very intimate and in-depth understanding of what that really means, and that's huge. But something that you mentioned right now, a couple minutes ago, you mentioned the moment where you felt like this could be something you had never really seen, right? That you didn't foresee ahead of time with your channel and where it was potentially going, its trajectory, right? I don't know. Is there any one video that you can maybe point to that you're like, you know what? That was it. That was the moment that I knew that we have something here. it's going to keep growing as long as we can stay consistent. Is there that one video that you can think of in your library?
No, I don't know if it's a one video or anything, but I think it's the consistency that brought being recognized at games.
Oh, yeah.
And people thanking me, and it was definitely like, whoa. Okay, so I'd previously in the past I'd played music and in bands, and so
dude, you're a jack of all trades, bro.
I've lived some lives, all right, but so I mean, definitely there were those moments humbly that people recognized the band that I played in, and they it was odd. Okay, I don't know how well you know Atlanta, but I was driving down North Avenue, which and so there's this old school punk venue called the Masquerade, and it was off of North Avenue. I think I was 17 or 18 or something like that, and I was driving in my truck, and someone in a van, it was all blacked out, but like it was a kid in the back of the van where the window doesn't even pop out fully, right? It's just like a little I couldn't even see who it was.
Yeah.
But I was at a stoplight and they were like, "Hey, you're from that band. Hey, I love your band." And I'm like, "What? I don't even know what you look like, but that's amazing." And so anyway, to harken it back to Atlanta United, like people were saying that and approaching me, and that's like the best feeling in the world. It's just, not the fame, but it's them appreciating that you're bringing them content on a consistent basis, and they're appreciating it, and they let you know if they felt that strongly about it that they, said something to you. Yeah.
It's actually insane when you think about it, right? Like people commending you on the content that you're creating, giving you feedback that they didn't have to give, going out of their way when they didn't have to do it. I think it's honestly, I hope we can grow this channel to that point one day where, we're able to not even get the recognition publicly. That's not really what I'm looking for. But to get the assurance that this had some kind of positive impact on someone, right? That they learned something, they extracted some kind of unique value. That's always the goal. And of course, from our standpoint here at GOLZtv, of course, we wanted to play directly into our mission. I would love for somebody to tell me one day, "Hey, I got into the beautiful game because of your channel. I got into creating content to help grow the sport here in North America because of your channel." Those are the doors that we're hopefully, just opening up for people mentally. And again, I can only imagine what you felt as people were randomly approaching you, whether it be for footy or for any of the past lives you lived creatively, because you've done so much up to this point. But it's awesome, man. I love that. So not one specific video, but you can definitely I think you mentioned before already, you could tell that you were having an impact by some of the reactions that you were getting. But let's with that said, keeping this theme of the early days of you and your content creation journey alive, Atlanta United came into the MLS back in 2017. I remember because of how much the stadium, the team, the ownership, all of it was really talked about, and the stadium is beautiful, by the way. With that said,
I take all the credit.
Let me just ask you this yeah. With that said, Atlanta United, I mean, how pumped were you them coming into MLS? And it sounds like that's what really kind of led you to think on bringing this channel to life. But I don't know, were you always kind of supporting soccer in Atlanta? Was there an MLS team that you had as a favorite maybe before the United came to town?
So yeah, I mean, it started like this because soccer in Atlanta was very tough. You had the Silverbacks, and yeah, I've been to some Silverbacks games. It left a lot to be desired, I think, in terms of quality, and I think some, just the fan experience for sure. And so
Sure.
There was a bit of that. But I think for me, in terms of like soccer fandom, it really, I think it's encompassed in more from Arsenal, really, I would say. And in that kind of that, it's not kind of same thing with Atlanta United. They're not unknown or unfamiliar with transfer sagas. And so if you're an Arsenal fan, you're following sagas every year. And it could be a lot of fun, but I think it was also something that I was like, okay, that led into, okay, all right, so, are people doing this, this transfer season right? Like it, and kind of right before I started Atlanta United Fan TV, it was one of those. It was kind of a void. I was like, man, there's just not good stuff to like always know what's happening in the world of Atlanta United, and there definitely was a few of them that I think were doing an adequate enough job, but to something that I wanted to see, I felt like, okay, yeah, I'm well versed in the transfer window because of that, because of my Arsenal fandom, and that was definitely a part of it. But and did I answer your original question? I forget if I.
You did. You did like
Okay.
in an interesting way, and it works for me, man, 100%.
Okay, cool.
But you bring up something interesting with Arsenal, right? I'm an Arsenal guy myself. We talked about this already. I think that it's really interesting when I get a chance to meet other Arsenal fans, especially here in the States. So something I've always harped on, especially on this show, has been the fact that I believe North Americans have this unique opportunity to identify with a global football club like an Arsenal, like a Manchester United, like a Liverpool. Insert major club here, right? Like any one of the top European powerhouses. We have the unique opportunity to identify with the club and almost pick which route we're going to go. I feel as though if I was living in the UK, I wouldn't really have that choice to an extent, right? My family is a footballing family. My family supports Barcelona in a very diehard manner for years on years, even prior to all of the success they've seen as of recently. I mean, I remember years on end before that when we didn't have that success and we were kind of a middle of the table club. But with my Arsenal fandom, I developed that on my own. There isn't anybody else in my family that supports Arsenal. It is just me. And it was because I grew up in an era where Arsenal wasn't just seeing success, right? There were plenty of other clubs that were winning trophies. It was the manner in which they played. It was champagne football, right? It was the Invincibles. It was the fact that Wenger was, kind of laughed at coming into the league and then shut everybody up. It was a number of things. But when you think about, and maybe this is the same case for you, and you can kind of wrap this into your answer, but when you think about times today, it's almost so easy to be an Arsenal fan in 2023 because of how we're performing today. But if you think about like the last 10 years, it wasn't
Even
this
last
easy.
year.
In fact, it was the exact opposite. So what, your in your words, your experience, how have these two eras really differed, man? Like what's it been? What has it been like to be an Arsenal fan here in the States? And two, how does being a fan today differ from being a fan over the last 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, the long suffering for sure. Because essentially, fandom wise with Arsenal, it began in the early 2000s. They were that, it's like, I wouldn't say plucky underdog, but you could at least be like, hey, they're an underdog next to Man U. And it was like, okay, well, this team can still actually win something and achieve something. And again, like you just mentioned, the manner in which they play football as well was just beautiful stuff. That and then it really culminated in the Invincibles for sure, where it's just like, oh, this is incredible. Like I couldn't even fathom something like that. And then it all went to shit a little bit, but But
so quickly too, man. Oh man,
so quickly. Oh my god, yeah. Just leaving Highbury and then going to the Emirates, and just sticking with them through that for many of the years. I mean, the late 2000s, I probably started to tune out a little bit, but then back in the 2011, I came back. It was still tough, but it was definitely yeah. I mean, the football was there, the defense wasn't, but it was definitely yeah. Like it was to that aspect that okay, is this team finally getting past some of that the just Arsenal ways of underachieving. And yeah, 2010s obviously were not easy either. And just losing all these just players that were stalwarts or major pieces of the Invincibles or part of the the fabric of our academy, or just when we were doing at least pretty well. There's too many players to name, but yeah, Fabregas, Van Persie.
The Fabregas saga was Van Persie pissed me off. Just because he went to United, but
exactly
the Fabregas saga was one of the most drawn out transfer sagas of all time. You were talking about transfer sagas before, right? Imagine having to cover the Fabregas transfer saga. I don't think you would have left your house for a year and a half. You know what I mean? Like it really would have been like. Yeah, seriously, it was insane to follow.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Miguel Miron in that sense, to lesser degrees. But that's why I was like mentally ready for Miguel Miron. It's like, okay, I've been through this before. Like it's there's a lot of these other fans that are like, oh my god, they have like waxed poetic and lamented till the sun comes down, and it was definitely one of those where I'm like, yeah. No, I feel this pain. It doesn't really hurt as much as, say, someone that comes from your academy and then basically stabs you in the front, like says Fabregas. But anyway,
yeah. I mean, it's a little bit different, but I hear you.
Yeah, and it's also this. I think this leads to answering your other question way slower than necessary. But in terms of MLS sides. Obviously, Thierry Henry when he played for the Red Bulls. Obviously, Freddie Ljungberg when he played for the Seattle Sounders. I had softly, followed them when they came to MLS. And yeah, so there was a little bit of that where, I was like, okay, this is so cool. Like, they've come here. I used to watch them. Now I can kind of watch them here, but still wanting something that was in my own backyard. And I remember this SB Nation article that was talking about the Seattle Sounders. And I remember posting this on my own Facebook when Atlanta United was about to come around. I was like, man, yeah, we need to create a fan base that's similar to the Seattle Sounders and what they're doing up there. And I think we've done it.
Yeah.
We definitely we heard that message loud and clear, and yeah, I mean, I think we've matched it, if not semi-exceeded it. So
yeah, dude, you know what's crazy about that? What you just said is I almost mentally expect some of the loudest fan bases to be some of the most historic in this league, right? Because they've been around for a long time, or whatever the case may be. The loudest fan bases, and we've had multiple guests on the show say it, have been the expansion clubs. They've shown up in a way that I really can't even explain. I mean, everybody's seeing St. Louis this year, right? Everyone was seeing Charlotte last year. I mean, years ago we saw Atlanta. Before that we saw Seattle. Look at Austin FC. Look at LAFC. There's the expansion clubs are by far,
Cincy.
In a way.
Yeah,
Cincy. I mean, there's so many, right? Nashville's crazy. There's so many that it's almost hard to follow, or even rank who really is the loudest or most passionate. You would really have to go and experience the atmosphere at any one of these stadiums to truly be able to rank them. But at the end of the day, I don't know. As we continue to grow this league and expand it, Do you think we need to keep this trend going in order for the MLS to see like long-term tenured success? Like just more and more passionate fan bases popping up?
Yeah, obviously, yeah, that would be massively helpful. I think we've seen, some clubs as well that maybe, don't have that as big of a fandom, but still a very solid fan base, say like a Minnesota United, like that have come in. And so I think there are, Inter Miami, I think to a degree as well. They have a ton of like probably casual fans, especially their Instagram. I mean, their Instagram is like just, I think it's because obviously you have the Messi links, you have David Beckham, you have like these just intangible things that, definitely put them over the top. And so it makes sense.
The Joseph Martinez deal helps too.
I think so. And so, and let's just not even.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, we don't need to go too hard into that. But, I mean, it is, I think he's a big fabric of our history. And, he's someone that absolutely helped grow that fandom in Atlanta. And, when you have someone with that much swagger, with that much personality, like it really shines through, and it allowed us to be obnoxious in terms of as a fan base. We definitely were. We were petty at times. We were, we definitely showed what type of swagger we had when we were winning. So.
And you showed the away fans what to expect when they come to town, man. Like that's the beauty of it, and that's what I think that this league really needs more of. Like I live in one of the legacy markets here in Dallas, right? I say legacy markets because it's been around since the Dallas Burn days, right? And I remember watching games at the Cotton Bowl in 1998, right? Watching Tampa Bay Mutiny come to town, or the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars coming to town. And I thought over time Dallas would really, because at a playing level, at a development level, a lot of youth gets bred here. Like a lot of solid youth prospects come through this region. And I just thought that would translate really well to strong MLS fandom. And it has in certain seasons. But I would say, and this is not anything disrespectful as FC Dallas. I'm a fan of the club. I came up playing in that youth system. It to me though, there's a gap between the fandom and the support, the levels of passion that you see at matches. And I'm talking mainly outside of the supporters section that you see within the stadium. And when you compare that to the clubs that I just mentioned, Atlanta United, Seattle, LAFC, Austin. I haven't been to the Q2 yet. I'm kind of scared to go because it's so crazy. Like, and that's what I mean, right? Is like they've been sold out now for almost 2 years straight. And whereas, in Dallas, because the stadium is technically in Frisco, 30 miles away from Dallas proper, I don't know if that plays into it or whatever the case may be, but it just feels like it hasn't yet created the atmosphere that other expansion teams have created. And I don't know what it will take to get there. At some point though, do you think we could have similar atmospheres in all of the major MLS clubs and stadiums? Do you think that's possible?
I think as long as there are some owners like the New England Revolution owner, I think you probably know where I'm going here. It's going to be very difficult because they just honestly don't care. They don't care as much as other owners, and so and let's be honest as well. Like our very own owner of Arsenal. They also own the Colorado Rapids, and they really don't care either about them. They pumped some money in when they were, lucking into some winning, but they quickly dismantled that club, and like all the really strong pieces they couldn't keep. And so, I think that's a big hurdle. But if there is kind of some sort of MLS imperative initiative, whatever we want to call it, from from the commissioner and the front office of of the league, I think they could figure out a way to, force them to, I think, be more proactive and be more in the community and really engage with their fan bases on a more kind of deeper level. And but I think it's that too. Like you see it in the World Game too. There are a lot of teams and clubs that are in, say, the Premier League or wherever, and not every single team, like some of their stadiums are like libraries. I mean, Arsenal's was pretty much that for a long time. I mean, we had, before that kind of reset with the pandemic, like we were known as a library. Like people were not chanting, cheering, like drums were a completely foreign thing inside the stadium. Now people are like complaining that there's drums at the Emirates, and it's like you guys clearly don't remember like just a few years ago where like you could hear someone cough. Like it's one of those things where it's come a long way. So I think MLS can get there, but I think there needs to be some like incentives for owners to do that, because they bought into a league. Essentially, it's a franchise system, and they're very much safeguarded through that. It's basically like, you could be a McDonald's that's, really struggling and, not really selling a ton of food, but because you're McDonald's, you're able to survive a pandemic. It's like,
the brand carries you, right? 100%. I wholeheartely agree. Let me ask you this, because you mentioned a really, really good point there. The franchise system. Most of us are not a fan. I will collectively say that, and maybe I'm misstepping on, according to some fans, but I feel like I can confidently say most true football fans or soccer fans, however you see it, are not a fan of the franchise model for that very reason. You're safeguarded in a way that allows you to be comfortable with mediocrity, with being average, so long as the revenue is coming in, right? Mm-hmm. So long as that you meet certain KPIs from a revenue perspective, you're probably okay. Why do we need promotion relegation? Like how is that going to beef up this league in your opinion? 'Cause I firmly believe it will. I mean, do you agree with that statement?
I don't firmly believe that it will, but I think that there are values from both sides of the arguments that make a lot of sense, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest hurdle of the pro-rel argument for me is because of the franchise system, and you can't change how time has transpired, how history has transpired until now, which all these clubs, especially the new ones, paid some enormous franchise fees. And for them to be relegated into whatever this secondary league is, you're going to piss off some very wealthy people. And those wealthy people probably have some pull to be able to do something that won't really probably make this league look too good. So I think there's a bit of that. But then, the pro argument for sure, because, I mean, as an Atlanta United fan, the past 3 seasons have not been great. So this mediocrity has been really just something that it's bled into the fan base, unfortunately. There are a lot of fans that stopped caring. I mean, it was basically because, okay, well, we stuck into the playoffs. So what? Like, it really became a thing where there just wasn't, that excitement of a pro-rel league where, you're fighting relegation. Like, every match does matter. And, I think they're trying to make ways into that where, more playoff teams, Leagues Cup, more meaningful games. Okay. It's definitely, it's a fabrication into getting people to care. But yeah, I mean, it still is like the best way is to threaten if they can continue their livelihood. It's basically players, club officials, owners, all that. Like they make less in the lower leagues, in around the world. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty it's like being on commission essentially. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, base salary goes away. All the guaranteed upfront revenue completely goes away, and you're forced then to just deal with whatever you have and make it work. Which then means, right, players ship out because they don't want to have to deal with that. Maybe the fans get less invested because the competition bar lowers itself a little bit. But I also think that there's like you mentioned already, right? It makes every match completely worth it. I remember watching Everton last season celebrate like they won the Premier League, like they won it. Like I hadn't seen an Everton crowd storm the field in a long time, and that's exactly what happened when they secured just staying in the Premier League, right? Avoided relegation. I think that's what it does. I think it creates an atmosphere that fans on this side of the world have never really seen, because that is the American sports model, right? Franchising leagues, so that the owners are guaranteed a certain amount of revenue and a certain amount of, I guess you could say, fandom every single year. But I don't know. Maybe over time, there's a way that the league and the commissioner can come up with a system that truly incentivizes teams to go for it week in and week out, and even in some form or fashion enables connective tissue between Major League Soccer and the rest of the soccer pyramid on this side of the world, because I do think that there should be some layer of connection. We'll see how that pans out. This league is still very young, especially when you compare it to leagues anywhere overseas. I mean, you're comparing something that's 20, 25 years old to, hundreds of years old, right? So, it's a completely different ball game. But I do think that there is maybe some middle ground. I guess we'll find out over time. All right, man. Well, we're nearing kind of the tail end of the episode here. There's a few more questions that I want to ask before we get into icebreakers. One thing that I really wanted a lot of viewers to go check out while they were tuning into this episode is some of the older content that you've done, specifically as an Arsenal fan. If there's any other Arsenal fan tuning into this, some of my favorite videos were when Arsenal came to town years ago. They were just obviously in the U.S. this past summer, but there were specifically some videos on your channel when you got to meet the fellas over at AFTV, right? Troops, Robbie, when they were playing at how new was the stadium back then?
Well, so no, they didn't actually play at the stadium. So they actually were playing the what is it? The ISA Cup or whatever it was in the Carolinas.
Was it ICC?
ICC, there it is. And
yeah, that's what it was. Okay.
And so actually, one of the guys that used to be on the channel, well, we had been talking with AFTV for a long while, actually. Like they were doing Ultimate Football Fan for a minute, and they were wanting to essentially create something in the United States, really not unlike GOLZtv, actually, a little bit. But yeah, essentially, yeah, like really create something that's, for the North American fan base. And they saw us as kind of an outlet into this space, because it's Robbie at that time with some other guys that were doing the Ultimate Football Fan thing, and basically trying to build a larger league thing that's never really took off. But so we had been speaking, and basically we had shot some stuff a little bit behind the scenes, some promo stuff, and we were basically we were courting each other, one could say, and trying to figure out how we could work together. And but they were there, and then in North Carolina, so it was a natural hey, you guys are close enough. Why don't you come to an Atlanta United game? And so basically, some of us hooked them up with some gear and some other stuff, and basically they had some sweet tickets, I think, as well, and basically we were able to kick it with them a little bit, and really kind of not only them experience Atlanta United and kind of see how we do it here, but also share some insight in between us.
That's awesome, man. I love that. How was Troops in person? I saw the interview, but like, how was he as a guy in person? Like, just everything we all imagined he would be?
Yeah, really, really kind, and kind with his time, and super chill guy. Someone that if he's not ranting, like, you could never tell that he had the ability to rant, because he's just so chill normally. And once he gets talking about Arsenal, it's just like, and it was interesting to see how he was taking to LA United, and I think he definitely because United stands for something else, especially over there. He was wearing the gear, but he could not get behind LA United, because it was basically it rang too true to over there, that he couldn't support anything United, and so they had actually just went to LAFC, and they were kind of doing a whole tour along with Arsenal, essentially. And he was like, okay, LAFC is a little bit more my speed, because AFC is in the title. Also Carlos Vela as well, being a former Arsenal player. It's like, okay, it makes sense. All right, man. I'm not trying to force any fandom on you, but it was definitely, I was like,
I feel that.
But Robbie, it was a different story with Robbie, because I think Robbie's actually got family in Atlanta. So it was, he felt like, okay, this makes natural sense. And so it was one of those things where, he was happily rocking the gear, and also, so gracious with his time. And I mean, just a really stand-up dude. And we've had some conversations, kind of the stuff that we were trying to do didn't transpire, but hey, that's kind of the way it goes sometimes in business. Not every single idea is going to be something that pops off.
Yeah, exactly. Or it just takes more time, right? You never know. Yep. I think that's, exactly. The internet is changing business every single day. And we'll kind of see how certain things pan out. But I'm very aware that I think, in the earliest days of this sport, which I would consider today, as we sit here and have this conversation, to be just that, right? The earliest days of this game, at least here on this side of the world. I think it just takes, someone with a ton of grit, a ton of consistency, and someone who could be creative. I would consider you very much to be all of those things. I would equally consider AFTV and the crew over there to very much be that. I think with how big the game is overseas, even me being an Arsenal fan, how I stumbled onto their content was amazing. And I stayed tuning in, not because it's Arsenal and because it's Arsenal fans talking about it, but because of how good it really was, because of how many epic rants Troops really had, because of how calm Robbie is, even when we lost, right? It's a number of things that just spoke to me as a fan. It felt like I was hearing it from somebody who was relevant to me, right? Not a pundit who was trying to tiptoe the line on a network and maybe offer some take that I could kind of resonate with. Like, no, these are the reactions that I want. And I think that's what your channel offers to the Atlanta United community. And I imagine they probably couldn't, they feel the same way, but they probably wouldn't be able to understand where their own fandom would be without a channel like yours, man. I think that's awesome. So absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Well, look, one thing I want to ask you, because I think it's something that it's a hard question to answer, because we're trying to predict where this game is going to go in this country. We don't really know. But I don't know. Is there something you feel like the league, Major League Soccer, is missing that's preventing it from becoming? Right now, it's about, I would say, a top 4 sport in the U.S., right? It's behind American football, basketball, oddly enough, either hockey or baseball, depending on who you ask. But it's growing. It's getting bigger. But what's that one thing in your mind that is really preventing it from becoming or entering the top two conversation?
Mm. Ooh, yeah. I mean, a major part of it is time in which they cannot really control.
Yeah.
So, there is that. But I think outside of time, I think it's creating the narratives that NFL does really, really well, that basketball does really, really well. And I think there's something that's, we as soccer fans, we can see the players. We can see their faces, which NFL players not always the case. And I think it's something that is huge because yes, you can see into their eyes. The whole we don't need to get into windows of the soul, all that blah blah blah. We know this stuff that stuff makes people connect with people, and I think when you have that, and then yeah, it's more of that. It's like the stories, and especially I think we were maybe spoiled with the All or Nothing with Arsenal, that documentary on Amazon. It's like, yeah,
yep.
All those type of things. It helps you see the human side of it, and not just see them as players that are highly paid to do a job that a lot of fans are like, oh, my grandma can kick better than that type of thing, and it's like, yeah, no, there's a lot of hard work that goes into being a football player, and so all that's the psychological side, the physical side, so many emotional. There are things that we can all resonate with, and there are a lot of life lessons in sports, and I think that's a large part of why so many people love sports is because they can see the correlation and the parallelisms to their real life, and I think that's something here that it's we're getting there now. Apple TV, there's the onus on each club to have to make content. And I think that's huge because, when pressed and, when they have to make stuff, that's when they're going to have to be like, okay, well, yeah, the league has mandated that we need to do this. And that's exciting to see for, say I'm going to pick on them again, I guess, the New England Revolutions of the world to see what they're gonna do, and are they gonna care?
Yeah.
And, so I think that's a major part of how MLS can be successful. I feel like because that's essentially what kind of the difference is that people that water cooler conversation, it does kind of happen for MLS, but the major things, if there are people talking about oh, did you see what Carlos Vela did? And they're talking about it at the water cooler in an Atlanta office or something like that. All right, there we go. Now we're talking.
There we go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
now it's gotten there.
Yeah, 100%, man. No, I think you nailed it. Storytelling, right? At the end of the day, telling stories that transcend what you see on the pitch. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't even think you have to be, I'll make an NFL analogy here. I don't think you have to be a diehard NFL fan to understand what Patrick Mahomes, the impact he's having on not just the Kansas City Chiefs, but the broader city of Kansas City, right? And the community that team is attached to. You could feel it. It's part of mainstay culture. Your Uber driver probably talks about it. You probably hear people at the local restaurant you're dining at talk about it. You probably hear about it at work. That's just how big it's become, not because of what happens on the field per se, but because of the storylines that are attached to it. And I think that's super important as we think about the year one of this Apple TV deal, how it's going to continue to expand, how the content they're all being forced to create, that's really what it is, right? It's mandated. How that will continue to impact the individual communities that, in my opinion, are very fragmented at the moment, right? At the moment, there isn't one single community that unites all of these markets in North America together to form our own unique soccer culture. And in a really big way, I'm hoping that GOLZtv can change that we can bring a lot of these communities together so that we can kind of be united on this front of growing the game. But past that, I even a smaller hope of mine is each of these communities forge that for themselves and that they buy into the teams that have been brought to them, because this is who you have, right? Like, and for expansion teams, for expansion markets, I should say, for future expansion markets, I hope we get to the point where they're hoping, they're itching, they want that. They want what those other markets have and they don't have. That's what I think is really going to take this game over the top. But it all starts with branding and powerful storytelling, something that resonates with you, even if you're the most casual fan on earth, because that's what sports does. It gives us hope in a way that our regular day-to-day lives do not. And that's why it affects us, even if we have no control over the outcome. It's amazing. But look, man, this was a fantastic interview. I'm so glad we did this, man. But we're not done yet. I got a really quick few questions just to kind of ask you as icebreakers. These aren't footy focused per se. Some of them are, but they're just for the audience to get to know you a little bit more past what we've already discussed on the show today. So let's jump right in, man. Again, not quick fire. You can take as much time as you need to answer these, but I'm really curious to see where you stand on some of this stuff. All right. So we'll start from the beginning. And this may be a tough question for you to ask because you already mentioned both on the episode. Favorite club team in the world?
Oh, come on.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it is. It's 1 and 1A for sure. It's Arsenal and then it's Atlanta United. In no particular order.
Who would you say?
Yeah, it's 1 and 1A, and it's Arsenal and Atlanta United in no particular order.
Okay, we'll leave it there. I'm not going to say anything else. We'll leave it there.
Okay.
Favorite player of all time?
Oh, that's easy. That's way easy. Actually, yeah. Thierry Henry, without a doubt. Although...
My man, bro.
Yeah.
My man.
Oh, yeah. R9 is definitely a very, very close second. That definitely...
Ooh, that's a great one, actually.
Yeah, he helped me fall in love with the sport, that's for sure.
It's crazy how this generation, Gen Z, right, doesn't know Prime R9 and they feel like Erling Haaland is the greatest striker to ever lace up boots. And it's like, man, you don't know what you missed. If social media was around back then, I can only imagine the level of attention someone like Prime R9 would have had. I mean, the guy is just insane. The guy was a cheat code.
He was, right, exactly. That was like fandom personified, I think, in terms of like just... Yeah, I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing his name. I mean, it was worldwide. He was like Michael Jordan, but even more so. Like it's hard to quantify, but he was. It
really is.
Famous.
I mean, back like 03. Yeah, back like 03. I mean, I remember when he got signed for Real Madrid and. There's no social media back then, right? I mean, at least it was like in its earliest days. So the only thing you got was press coverage. But yeah, dude, like imagine the level of attention athletes get now and apply it to what we saw back in those days. And man, I don't know. I can only imagine, but it's actually crazy to think about how good he really was. And I will say this right now, R9, better striker than anything Erling Haaland has produced up to this point. Like not even close in my opinion. R9 was a phenomenal striker, phenomenal athlete. One of the best of his generation for sure.
And yeah, he would run games. He would run the games from the striker position. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think anything else needs to be said, man. The guy is crazy. No. All right, man. Let me ask you this before I jump into this question. You're a jack of all trades. We've definitely covered that in spades on this show. Were you also a player coming up? Did you play the beautiful game at all?
I played it poorly, and so I was always more of a defender. I was always a person that would put in the effort. Technical skill. I learned from kind of a little bit older, and so didn't get to play it heavily. It was more kind of that I would say kind of the Asian upbringing. I would say sports wasn't always the thing that was at the forefront. and so I had to press my parents for getting me into sports and whatnot. So
that's okay though. That's totally okay. No biggie. But let me ask you this: in your playing days, did you ever score? What was the best goal you ever scored if you did?
See, being a defender, didn't really go up as often as I probably would have or wanted to. And I mean, I think a lot of the goals that I scored were more like the small-sided game. So there wasn't anything sort of like a absolute golazo type of like distance one. I mean, I scored one from outside the box on a grass pitch before, and it felt pretty good. But
yes, sir.
But other than that, nothing really to write home about. No halfway from from midfield, or like I skinned like 8 dudes. Nah, it wasn't that. I wasn't that type of player.
Hey man, don't sell yourself short, man. I was a defender too. I'll be honest. I'm right there with you. I didn't have very many goals coming up, and that's that I played competitive ball kind of the whole way through. But look, man, people don't rate those headers off set pieces, those scrappy goals on in the middle of the 6 or the 18. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to score those goals, and I'm always happy to be in the contention for those as a defender, as I'm sure you were, right? So yeah, man, that's awesome. I love to hear that.
I was happier sometimes with like
now let's get a little bit of
like a through ball that that really nice well weighted pass. I was sometimes more geeked about that. So
yeah, get that sexy assist, right? And you're just like, yeah, exactly. I did that. That was me, bro. 100%. 100%. All right, let's get it away from footy for just a second. A little more personal. Spotify or Apple Music?
Oh, Spotify. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I use both. I use Apple products and PC products, and I know there's like this whole like angst from Apple users, like, oh, you have green text, or that type of thing.
Bro, it's a thing, man. It's really a thing.
It's wild. It's don't be brainwashed, ladies and gentlemen. But it's one of those. I use I feel like in what is the case, the best thing for that medium, for me anyway, that I can afford, and because it's one of those. So Spotify. It's also where I park the podcast as well. And so, I'm way bigger fan of Wi-Fi.
Very nice, Meryl. Very nice. All right. If you could have one meal for the rest of your life, or we can even put it this way, if you're on your last meal ever, what's it going to be?
This is a very, very difficult question for a foodie. So I'm going to... My cheat answer is to say Korean barbecue, because there's all the different types of food that you can have Korean barbecue. So especially when it's all you can eat, all the different meats, all the different sauces, the panchan, the egg thing. Oh, it's just, you can't go wrong. Like, even if it's bad Korean barbecue, it's still Korean barbecue. So, yeah, I'll take that for sure.
I love it, bro. I love it, man. Korean barbecue is pretty damn good. Let's be honest, it is. I think regardless of market, it's pretty good, pretty solid. All right, man. TV or movies?
Woo! Coming from the film industry and TV industry, but that's very, very
that's tough, man. Because there's so many on both sides that you probably like. I mean, but if you had to boil it down, right? I had to take away one forever. Which one are you picking?
Yeah, okay, it's film. Film, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, no, there's so many films that I love. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, and basically, man, this day and age with streaming platforms, like, I mean, TV shows are basically movies, man. If we're being honest, exactly. Like, you just put them, you binge watch them like they're movies, and it's basically the same thing. So, I don't know, my humble opinion. All right, and this one is in the world. So I've asked this question, and I've had a lot of footy fans on this show, right? And some of them don't drink this, but maybe you do. I'm not sure. Coke or Pepsi?
Mm. Yeah, I don't really drink sodas anymore. But if I had to choose, because it's Atlanta, Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I mean you have to, right? Like that was almost a loaded question for an Atlanta fan. Exactly. All right, AirPods or headphones?
Pods, but not AirPods. So
okay.
Yeah, I've got. I don't even know what this is, but they work. So that's all that matters.
Love it, bro. Love it. All right, man. You mentioned you're a foodie, so this might be interesting. Home cooked meal or eat out?
Man, okay. Ideally both, but depends on the home cooked meal as well. There's so many caveats. Oh man, I would say if it's a home cooked meal for my mom, yes. If it's and frankly, I mean some of my own home cooked meals I rate, but man. Okay, yeah, I'll say eat out, but if it's at some specific spots that are my favorites.
That's fair. That's fair. It's hard to go against mom's home cooked meal. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know. It hits different always in a way that, eating out just never really does. Not that those meals aren't good, but I don't know, man. Something different about just, mom cooking for you at home makes it hard to go against that one, which is, why I ask it.
Right.
Where do you most want to travel to right now? If money wasn't an object, right? Is there one place in the world where like, I've always wanted to go there. I've never experienced the culture. I would go there immediately.
Japan for sure. And it's one of those, the foodie thing kind of adds into that, but I think it's also, you need like 3 weeks in order to like really experience it right. Because there's a lot of different landscapes in Japan. You got the city, you got the mountains, you got a little bit of the ocean feel a little bit as well. I mean, anytime you have to travel like 24 hours or so, like you gotta if you only have a week, there's not enough time. Like that's essentially, with the jet lag and then, just recovering. And then God forbid you have a late night. I mean, you have like 4 days essentially. If you just go a week, it's not enough. So I just I haven't been able to carve out 3 weeks to go to Japan, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, that would be awesome, man. And what's crazy? You probably do guess this, but we get that response a lot. Like for me personally, when I ask people this, I always say, for me, it's like Tokyo. And I want to go experience a culture that makes me uncomfortable in the best way possible. When I say uncomfortable, meaning I can't read anything. I have to figure things out on my own. The food is a culture shock. The manner in which we just experience life on a day-to-day basis is a culture shock. I imagine being a football fan is also decently different over there, all in the best ways possible. Like, I just want to go there, explore, get lost in it, and eventually just find my way back to the airport to go home. Like that's really what I want to do. So, yeah, man, I totally resonate with that answer. And we get that at least, the broad level of Asia in some form or fashion a lot. And I think it's so different from the Western side of the world. 100%.
Right. And that's like all right, man, full on adventure. Sorry to cut you off, but just expand even more. Like that truly is adventure, is, just kind of letting yourself get immersed in it. And one of those other bits, so like you were mentioning, like experiencing soccer different there. This is an old movie from the 2000s called Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And there's this scene where there's this football pitch on top of this building. And that was also something that, oh man, Like, I want to play on that pitch. I want to, like, just every bit about that excited me. And yeah, when I first saw that, I was like, what is that? Like, it's
dude.
incredible.
Seriously, it's basically like a wallpaper, right? Like I can put that on my desktop and just dream about it all day. It's
literally.
I don't know, man. If I got ever a chance to play for that, dude, it's crazy though. Like, if that's real, it was a movie, right? So like, I didn't know if it was real, and I watched it. But if that's real, like, yes, I have to go play on that at some point in my life. I think it'd be amazing. 100%. All right, man. Last question. And this is more of, I think, advice you might be giving out to someone who might be watching this show. But if there was one recommendation or maybe one thing you wish you knew when you first started creating content, not for yourself, but for the community that is, Atlanta United, what's the one piece of advice you'd give someone who maybe is just starting out or has been itching to start, but just for whatever reason hasn't, gone through it yet? What's the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Yeah, man, it's probably a good bit, but I would say believe in yourself, because it's something that's like my upbringing and like history has led me here where some people might be a little bit more camera shy than others, but there's always this coming from playing in bands and being part of the entertainment industry. It's that aspect of there's like something performative in the sense of like of what I crave doing, and so that creation aspect, that being in front of camera maybe wasn't as scary, but I think if you look at the early videos as well, like I didn't show my face for the whole first 10 months or whatever. Actually, like I was actually off screen for a good bit of it, trying to gauge how people were feeling and whatnot. And but now, obviously it's a different story. But I think it's that, like, believing in yourself and basically not letting other people tell you you can't do something, or comparing yourself to other people. It's just something that's I don't think benefits individuals in the long run.
I agree, man, wholeheartedly. I think especially that piece you mentioned about comparing yourself to others, right? No one's path is linear ever, right? And it doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve. It could be content creation. It could be trying to grow a business project. It could be literally anything that requires a ton of grit and consistency. There's no one right way to do it. In fact, I often say there are no rules, right? Like there are no rules. We make them up as we go. Like we'll figure out a way to grow this thing. We'll make it up as we go along, but we can't define our success by someone else's path and someone else's journey, because it's not linear. They completely went down a rabbit hole that worked for them. We're going to find our rabbit hole. And again, not comparing yourself is something that I still struggle with a little bit to this day, even at times, right? It's so easy to just give into your mental thoughts and start, comparing yourselves to others who may be a little bit like you, but maybe they're growing at a faster rate or whatever the case may be. Just, continue to tweak things, iterate, test things out, experiment. Don't be scared to do it. But like you mentioned, right? Believe in yourself. I think that part is super important. So, man, AJ, sincerely, man, this was a great show. We lasted a lot longer than I thought we would. We're already well over the hour mark. I can't thank you enough for coming onto this pod, telling some cool stories, giving me some of your insights soccer-wise. And look, man, hopefully we get to do this again at some point in the future. But before we wrap up, before I close this thing out, look, man, I want to, kind of set the stage for you. Is there anything you want to shout out, anything you have going on with you or your channel that you want to bring some notice to?
Yeah, so really humbled and definitely very appreciative of you, Jose, and having me on, and very, very much I had a great time. And in terms of with Atlanta United Fan TV, I mean, basically, everyone that helps out with the channel to some degree, definitely shouts out to them all. Mike, Mark, Chris, my beloved Corey, and it's everything, like all the efforts are definitely, yeah, just so appreciated. And I think it's one of these things where in the going forward, I'm just so excited about how Apple TV can really help, not only grow the game for MLS and for soccer in general, but, of course, I think selfishly, in our kind of own backyards as well, it will, allow the game to be seen. And I think that is like step number one that just, for whatever reason, wasn't at the forefront of, importance until, recently. So
yeah,
definitely, I think exciting things to come ahead because like I've mentioned, like I've had to scale up, scale down, in the meantime, but, I see some massive growth in the future, in the game for soccer, for MLS, and for LA United because of this.
Yeah, and more importantly, man, I say more importantly, but at least from your standpoint, your channel and your community that you're building, I think there needs to be more of that exists in this country, in this continent. I think it's the only way that, this game keeps growing at the pace we want it to. So, look, man, I'm going to link, for everybody who's watching, I'm going to be linking AJ's channel, Atlanta United Fan TV, down below. Subscribe to the channel, check out some of the content. It runs deep. That is a massive library, about 6-7+ years of it. So a lot of content for you guys to consume. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, GOLZtv, we are all about telling soccer stories on this channel. I can't thank anybody enough for making it to the end of this video. And again, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like the video. It helps us get the word out and helps us bring the beautiful game to more fans across this great country of ours. So with that said, I am Jose, host of Box to Box. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you guys next time.